Hey guys, Legendary Grimlock here, and today we have can Black Fatalis beat the Showa era of Godzilla? Yeah, we're about to get into some good stuff right here. So, rules are pretty simple, just like any other video with, Godzilla, Kong, King Ghidorah, and stuff like that. We're going to be putting Showa Godzilla in a gauntlet, full rest each day and stuff like that. And we obviously are going to give him size equalized. I don't see why not. I mean, it's pretty fair, right? Now, with the Showa era, I did have to try to find a reasonable height here. And what I came across was that Showa Godzilla was around 164 feet. So I think that should be reasonable enough as it is. Just throwing that height on Fatalis and stuff like that should be pretty simple. Then you have the gauntlet. We have Anguirus, King Caesar, Gorosaurus, Hedora, Megalon, Titanosaurus, Gyan, Zone Fighter, and then King Ghidorah, with the final boss being Showa Godzilla. Now, I think it's pretty simple and straightforward. Let's get into the scaling. Now, with the Showa era, it's pretty simple. You can easily get them to 4D. Now, I know there is stuff putting them at Universal because you do have the sheer fact that Showa Godzilla was confirmed to be Marvel's Godzilla, which is kind of funny because they lost to the goofiest Godzilla of all time. But we're going to stick with the, movie dash, I guess you could say manga, Showa timeline here with the connection to the Heisei movies, which are around Universal. This is important because, or I should say the higher ends, excuse me, of the Showaverse are Universal. This is because Dorora, a terror beast here, was able to create a fourth dimensional space, and Zone Fighter was able to shatter it like it was nothing, even being able to harm Dorora, and possibly even a much stronger Dorora, which he kills with his energy missiles or his meteor missiles. Now, for the lower ends of Showa, you actually have the solar system to what's called Dwarf Star level, as the Gargo missiles have been able to straight up annihilate gas giants in a pretty much a one-shot fashion, which is ridiculous here because gas giants, shouldn't that really shouldn't happen. Gas giants really don't have a solid form here, and that would actually put them around Dwarf Star level, and you have monsters that simply just scale above that pretty easily. So with that being said here, it's pretty simple where you can get the Showa era. From the lower ends, you have Dwarf Star level, possibly even solar system, because you do have some monsters that pretty much just annihilate that altogether, with the higher ends being in the fourth dimensional space. So without further ado, let's really head into Fatalis. Obviously, he has his flight, his fire breath. He's easily faster than light, being comparable to monsters that can fly in and out of space and stuff. With him himself should be scaled to his white version of himself, and being able to fly from the moon to Earth in little less than a couple seconds. So literally nothing altogether. Now, for a scaling, you can easily get him to 4 to 5D pretty easily. This is because he would scale above the other black dragons like Elatrion, Sapphire Jiva, and Dire Moralis, beings which have been stated to be scared or pretty much have so much power that the gods themselves fear them, and they're so far removed from the Tree of Life that they're just unnatural altogether. So in all honesty, you have Fatalis ranging from 4 to 5D, as the creators of the verse were able to create every concept in there. So without further ado, let's begin, starting off with our boy who deserves to be in the Monsterverse. Like, come on, Legendary. And we're starting off with Anguirus. Now, Anguirus is pretty simple and straightforward here. He's got his spikes, he can roll, he can dig and burrow, and honestly, Godzilla's best friend. I think that's the most important thing here, which is why he should be in the Monsterverse in general. He deserves it as much as Rodan and everything. Now, believe it or not, he's got some pretty good feats here. Being able to fight against Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Gyan, even being able to harm some of the higher ups like King Ghidorah. Albeit this is still early on King Ghidorah, who comes back much stronger than what he was before. So, in all honesty, he's got some good scaling, and he's got some good durability as well, being able to take attacks from the monsters I just named and taking some pretty serious damage. Like, good lord, when King Ghidorah dropped on him or dropped him from the atmosphere, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what the... Oh, he survived that? Huh. Remarkably durable little thing here. Then you have the sheer fact that he's able to take blade cuts to the face and stuff like that. He attacks with his back as well, and like I said earlier, he can burrow. So yeah, when I did this, what's the word I'm looking for? When I did the research, is what I'm trying to say here, I honestly thought Fatalis wouldn't be able to harm him. Again, this is me underestimating Monster Hunter when I started this video. Because again, Monster Hunter is pretty powerful, but again, I really never thought they would get that high until I really did the research myself here. But with Fatalis and being able to harm Anguirus, I really thought it wouldn't be able to happen. I thought Fatalis, even at a size equalized situation, wouldn't be able to get past that armor. Wouldn't be able to even, you know, harm Anguirus unless he targeted the soft bits. Then I remembered Lao Shen Lung. And I remember the statement that his shell, or a single scale of him, is as strong as a flying wyvern's shell, which is one of the more durable parts of a flying wyvern, which is why some of your attacks will or may bounce off of Rathian and Rathalos' shell, even for the basic standard ones. However, then I remembered this could go a plethora of ways here, because you can scale them above Basilgoose, Seething Basilgoose, Silver Rathalos, Espinas, Flaming Espinas, Rathian, Pink Rathian, Gold Rathian, Azure Rathalos, Dread King, and Dread Queen Rathalos and Rathian. Then you have, obviously, Seragios. Then you have Astalos, Bolt Reaver Astalos, mind you. Then you have the other, you know, flying wyverns like a Cantor, Eucanlos, Tartaronis, you name it. You can actually scale Lao Shen Lung above these guys because, again, they're all flying wyverns. And the thing is, though, the guild still knows about these monsters, and they're still making that statement. Keep in mind, they don't really specifically state a any flying wyvern by name. They're simply stating that a Lao Shen Lung scale is as durable as a flying wyvern's shell. Flying wyvern meaning it can mean any wyvern here. Meaning you could upscale a single scale from Lao Shen Lung, right, above a flying wyvern. And this would even include the Elder Dragon level flying wyverns, to which you can get into country, multi-continental, to small planetary. There's even large planetary scaling for the flying wyverns as well. And again, if you want to use Monster Hunter stories, you can easily get that to large planet. With Golden Rathian being able to create black holes, and with monsters like Molten Tigeress, Lucent Nargacuja, you know, fellow flying wyverns as well, being able to scale above that. Meaning that Fatalis, and again, this all just circles right back to Fatalis. And this would mean that Fatalis could just dust, you know, Anguirus here. Just blow him to smithereens here. Just burn him to a crisp. And again, this is because he would scale above Lao Shen Lung, who just all that scaling I just did earlier for, just goes right back to Fatalis. Next off, we got King Caesar. And pretty simple, pretty straightforward. He's actually pretty easy, unfortunately. Now, one of his abilities is the sheer fact that he can absorb and redirect energy through his eyes. But again, I'm not even sure if that would pretty much work for Fatalis here. For starters, I don't think his fire breath is really based on energy. It might be based off some mystical nature of, you know, Godzilla in general. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Fatalis in general. But with King Caesar here, it's very possible that he wouldn't be able to absorb it, as it's not an energy-based attack. It's based on a more natural phenomenon. And again, we really haven't seen him absorb anything outside of Mechagodzilla's laser beams, which are energy-based attacks. Now again, it's very possible he could absorb the fire and maybe redirect it at Fatalis. But again, it's very possible that he can't. It's like a 50-50 thing here. But more often than not, I can see Fatalis flying around him, outmaneuvering him, and just pressing that advantage forward. And I mean, yes, King Caesar does have the skill gap, excuse me. But you also have the hunters who outskill Fatalis, and they're still struggling with him. Even our main hunter in general. So, I would say maybe he could absorb the energy. But more often than not, I see Fatalis just outmaneuvering him and then just pressing that advantage. Excuse me. Tongue's dry. But let's move on. We got Gorosaurus, who's able to affect the higher ups here. And I think this has even ended the series, King Ghidorah as well. So him being able to break King Ghidorah's back with that kangaroo kick there is actually pretty amazing. And then you have him at the beginning of the series where he was struggling against Kong. I mean, still, Kong, same Kong that went on to go ahead and beat, you know, early Showa, Godzilla and stuff there. And then you have the sheer fact that he can burrow. Now, in all honesty, I don't really see this being a problem for Fatalis here. I actually see him pulling a Pokemon. And when Gorosaurus even tries to go for a dig here, he just flies up, shoots fire breath down the hole, and that's it. It's pretty much over from there. And in all honesty, I don't really see any of these monsters being able to really put lasting damage on a Black Fatalis here. So this means that the first round, excuse me, the first round here actually gets done with low difficulty. So in all honesty, yeah, he progresses. But let's move on to round 2, starting off with Hedora. Now, when I first did this, again, I thought Hedora would be difficult because of his gelatinous nature and pretty much how he works here. Because the way you have to beat Hedora is that you have to annihilate him completely. Or he'll just retreat, or she'll just retreat and come back. It's kind of a repetitive thing with Hedora here. Then you have the sheer fact that, again, that acidic and gelatinous nature could, you know, harm even the likes of Showa Godzilla. Like, look at his hand. It's just disgusting altogether. However, I don't see that harming Fatalis. Because, again, Fatalis is more magical in nature than natural. So it's very possible that Hedora might be able to harm him with that nature, or with its, you know, acidic or, you know, pollution nature and stuff like that here. But what I actually see happening is Fatalis actually using his fire breath to completely annihilate Hedora here. The reason why I say that is because once Fatalis realizes that a basic fire breath isn't going to do it, I think he's going to turn up the heat and the pressure behind the fire breath attack and just completely, like, smoke Hedora here. Like, turn him into a whole pack entirely. So, moving on, we got Megalon. And in all honesty, it's like a lesser Gyan. I hate to say it like it is like that, but again, Megalon is a lesser Gyan. Bro definitely came back in Gemstone though as his own character, but again, kind of got done dirty because it was a tired and weakened Gemstone Godzilla, so it's like, dang, he still didn't catch a break here. But Megalon being able to create hurricane winds that can move over 7,000 metric tons here, being able to use his drill attacks to even harm a larva Batra. But unfortunately, when larva goes into his adult stage, it's pretty much over, right? So does this mean he can harm Fatalis? In all honesty, I'm a little iffy on that. I really am. Because again, on one hand, you have him fighting against, you know, Larva Batra, who's able to fight against, you know, Heisei Godzilla at the beginning of the series. This will put him at the early stages here. You could even say that, you know, Larva Batra is around the solar system calibers. But when it comes down to it, you actually have your arguments that the Fatalis is taking attacks from the hunter, who's basically upscaling from other hunters, who's harming much more durable monsters than a Larva Batra. Like Nergigante's regeneration and Geismagorn's durability would all honestly be upscaled to Fatalis. Like, even these hunters, which are no match for our main hunter, probably wouldn't even be able to scratch or even get a noticeable margin by Fatalis. Yet our hunter is able to do this repeatedly. So in all honesty, don't really see Megalon harming him. I do think the winds would definitely give Fatalis some difficulty, but overall, I don't really see Megalon winning. Maybe with some moderate or mid difficulty, but really when it happened. Now we have the real problem, Titanosaurus. Being able to harm Godzilla, comparable to Mechagodzilla, and is actually so strong that he can beat Godzilla underwater. Now this one here is very contentious. This is actually pretty interesting, because Titanosaurus is actually like I mean, look at how he just jumps and just catches these jets, right? Just jumps and impales these jets. He's able to throw around, beat up Godzilla. You actually had statements that he was stronger than Godzilla and that he could actually beat Godzilla when he's underwater. Now, sure, he was more so mind controlled during this movie with everything going on here, but again, he was still powerful enough to go toe-to-toe and beat Godzilla, even having confirmation that he can, well, beat Godzilla underwater. And again, I don't think that's a very bad thing. It's Titanosaurus. It's a monster that's literally designed to fight Godzilla underwater. So, yeah, pretty strong here. But does he beat Fatalis? In all honesty, I think this is where, again, the flight and the fire breath kind of just come into play. It's very possible he could dehydrate Titanosaurus. I mean, he's still an amphibious creature in all honesty. But then you also have the sheer fact that Titanosaurus would have to catch Fatalis and try to literally get those jumps properly. As I think it would be funny if he jumps in the air to try and, tag Fatalis. But Fatalis just uses his fire breath just to continuously put him down over and over again. So in all honesty, yeah, definitely going to give it to Fatalis again here. However, this round definitely takes a more mid to low difficulty than being into the, I guess you could say, the low difficulty ranges here, as these monsters are still very challenging. But let's get on to round 3, and that is going to be with Gyan starting off. Now, Gyan, everyone's favorite chicken cyborg, right? So, Gyan here actually does have some pretty good options to harm Fatalis. He's got a saw blade, he's got his, his hooks and claws and stuff, and he's got his little energy blazer that comes from his eyes. Ooh, excuse me. But, Gyan, at the end of the series, kind of just fell off, to be honest here. I mean, Godzilla was able to go on to kill Gyan with his tail here, and Zone Fighter was kind of just boxing him all together. Now, yes, you still have, the claws and his, claws and saw stuff here, which is still able to harm, Showa Godzilla here, and Showa, Zone Fighter here, and it's pretty consistent that he is able to harm them here, and being able to draw blood, if not flat out knock them out altogether here. But in all honesty, you do have some strong arguments for Fatalis here, and that's pretty much the hunters in general here. But again, we won't really talk about that here, as I kind of just think that Fatalis's overall durability would really just negate a lot of the things that Gyan can do here, like his saws and his, claw blades and stuff like that here. And in all honesty, it would probably come down to a flight battle, to which Fatalis would kind of just hit him with one of these, one of these fire breath attacks, and it'd be over from there. So in all honesty, yeah, Fatalis moves on yet again. Now on to Zone Fighter, and this is where I definitely see Fatalis getting it to the high difficulty situations here, because Zone Fighter is technically a monster hunter if you really think about it. Like, he's got the weapons, the gear, and the combat skills. Plus, he is the one that pretty much provided the whole 4th dimensional scaling. So put some respect on the boy's name. Plus, he's got his meteor missiles, he's got his lasers, and again, he's got the fighting skill to harm Fatalis in a size equalized situation. And I mean, what's the best argument you could really use for Zone Fighter to not lose this fight? For Fatalis to win here? And in all honesty, I think it's pretty simple where we could get into this. Now, this is, again, very contentious. And again, I know some of you are going to argue about it, probably in the comment section, about if Fatalis has the, capabilities to beat someone like Zone Fighter. And again, keep in mind, we're still talking about Black Fatalis only. But you do have the Monster Hunter as a very strong argument for him being able to, lose to Fatalis here. Because here's the thing, right? Every monster that the Monster Hunter has came across is pretty much building up to how difficult it is for him. It gets more and more difficult, but he's overcoming it over and over and over again, right? From the smallest Jaguars all the way to Fatalis himself here. And that fight just gets tougher, tougher, and tougher. But then you think you have it easy, right? Because then you go back and you're able to kill these monsters a lot easier than you remember. Sometimes you capture them for extra points. Sometimes you just have to grind them, right? But once you get to Fatalis, it's difficult every single time. And again, our hunters are using weapons made from those specific monsters and are able to bend the souls of those monsters to his very will, basically having a soul battle where his soul comes out on top here and he's able to use the monsters' powers and abilities to harm these other monsters. But yet Fatalis is able to not only go toe to toe with these monsters or with these hunters, but still be able to withstand those durability bypassing attacks. A Cantor's Black Flame, Elatrion's Eschaton Judgment, Sapphire Jiva's Flames, or soul destroying claws. Fatalis is able to withstand all that and still come out on top. So in all honesty, using that argument, you could literally say Fatalis would be able to beat Zone Fighter because he's dealt with something like Zone Fighter before in our main hunter. Now we move on to pretty much King Hedora. And in all honesty, I think I made that argument earlier. King Hedora has a lot of bypass durability attacks, like his gravity beams, his energy absorption, where he's able to draw upon the power of the sun and stuff to increase his power. However, as I stated earlier, you also have the durability bypass attacks of the Monster Hunter, with him using a Cantor, a Elatrion, a Lucha, Mephistonian. Then you have again Sapphire Jiva, Dire Morales, and so forth. And yet, all these durability bypass attacks, and he is still struggling till this very day with Fatalis, White Fatalis, and even Red Fatalis. And again, I know we're talking about Black Fatalis in general, but I want you guys to get the scope of it, you know? Everything that King Hedora can do, Fatalis honestly just does it better. He could do it better. But again, he's kind of limited to what he's able to do because of the game. And again, remember, when Fatalis first appeared, he was doing some just way crazier stuff. Being able to tear holes through space and time to travel in between dimensions, which means there are other dimensions in Monster Hunter, which is crazy. And again, with King Hedora being needing every other Earth monster to, combat him and stuff, yeah, it does feel like Fatalis has his hands full. And I do think he does here. But at the end of the day, I'm giving it to Fatalis. Because again, he still is able to tank everything King Hedora does, and he has a lot better arguments for his durability than Hedora. And I mean, in all honesty, it may come down to a testament of stamina. And we're also going to just talk about Godzilla here because I think they're in the same boat here. Because with Godzilla and Hedora, I do think these matchups kind of just come down to stamina. And in all honesty, they just have to kind of fight till one of them overcomes the other when it comes to damage. And I actually think that Fatalis has a much stronger argument for, being able to out-damage both Godzilla and Hedora than they do for him. Like, yeah, Hedora has his gravity beams and Godzilla has his atomic breath, and I think he has that atomic ring, or maybe that was Manila. I might be wrong here. But again, when it's pretty much all said and done here, Fatalis can actually outlast and outdamage both Godzilla and Hedora here. Now, I do think they do have the stamina advantage. Maybe. It is possible. Because again, Fatalis really doesn't have a limit. I don't really think he has a real limit until we actually see him get tired. But even then, we're probably through 3 to 4 different stages of the matchup at this point here. So when it comes down to it, yeah, their stamina could be equal here. However, I think more often than not, Fatalis can out damage these two. His fire breath is just on a whole nother level altogether. His attack potency may also be higher as well, especially if we say he's more in the fifth dimensional ranges, than the 4D ranges. But that's all I got to really say here. He clears it with a 100% win rate. But let me know what you guys think down below. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and my throat is dry, so I'm going to need something to drink after this. Peace.